Well, Anna, thank you so much for joining me. It's nice to share another conversation with you for the sake of our NFT NYC community. And we have some new and exciting things for you and I to discuss around Web3 publishing. For folks that have not had a chance to meet you or understand your background with the Verse and other projects around Web3 publishing, please introduce yourself to me for a moment.
Sure. Hi, Ian. Thank you to you and to NFT NYC for this space. My name is María Caballero, and I am a poet and an artist. I've been publishing traditionally in both Spanish and English for many, many years. And I always felt that poetry, specifically writing in general, wasn't valued in a way that honored the writer's craft. I always wanted poems to be part of museums, part of galleries, to be transactable. I wanted to have poetry on my walls. And it didn't seem to be happening. So when I read about Web3, I really dove in and was very excited about how blockchain provenance could potentially empower poets and writers as well. I mean, since we spoke, not only, have I been very active in the digital poetry gallery, the Verse, which I co-founded with two wonderful women, Sasha Stiles and Kalani Wamoto. But I've also dove into Web3 publishing proper and published my first digital book. And I'm really excited to share that experience and talk about how collecting books might be different from buying books, what it means as an author to have a readership and a collectorship, how that provenance can connect you with your audience in a way that helps you not only build a sustainable practice, but also reward your supporters and really build emotional connections with them.
I'd love for you to talk about your perspective of selling a book to somebody compared to selling a digital asset or some sort of NFT collectible to somebody, because it sounds like there's two completely different thought processes by which you as an author and as you're counseling other authors, whether they're poets or fiction or nonfiction authors, to be able to, approach Web3 publishing, there may be a couple different things for them to consider. Can you go a bit deeper on the difference between selling a book, whether digital or physical, and selling a digital asset that maybe has utility or things of that nature?
I mean, people are already used to buying digital books. I mean, if you look at Kindle, right, or Audible even, these are digital books that we're purchasing and we're not even thinking twice about them. So I really feel that there is a natural jump from buying an $8.99 book on Amazon that you're going to read on your Kindle to collecting an NFT book, via, for example, my publishing house, Alexandria Labs, which accepts ETH and also just recently enabled credit card payments. So honestly, I don't think there needs to be as big a psychological jump as there might be for other assets, such as artwork, which for some people it's difficult to grasp at the beginning. But with books, it's a much more natural sort of fit. What's different now is that who owns your books. For example, right. I have no idea who's bought my books on Amazon, but I know exactly who's collected my digital book via Alexandria Labs. And I think that is really empowering. And I know who collected the first edition, which sold out, and I know who collected the second edition, which is still available. And that allows me to reward early supporters, and to also sort of activate different, connections and events, gifts to this community that I'm building.
When a vision is cast around Web3 publishing, there's a couple different ways that visions are cast, right? There's the persuasion to jump in and take advantage of what is right now. And then there's the inspiration to be looking forward to what will be. Can you give us some insight in terms of what's available right now for authors that you'd love to persuade them to consider in terms of Web3 publishing, and what is not yet available, but you're looking toward it, you're talking about it, people are excited about the development of it?
Well, I think that I think there's a good amount of platforms that are opening up. I think that the space perhaps lacks a few big name authors to enter and really dive in and experiment, to draw attention to the potential. But, like I mentioned, I have to shout out my publisher that they've been so amazing to work with, Alexandria Labs. There's also a platform called Readle, which is doing good work and allows for self-publishing. With social media, you really do have the potential to build your own audience,
right,
and not depend on legacy publishing for that. And, with these platforms like SoulType is another one, you can create your books and they allow for that. And then you can just sell them. And it just depends on your ability to connect with people online, and via your art, of course. I know that there's also a new platform, a newish service called Paragraph, where you're actually minting newsletters and your communications. So all this is just a different way of recording digital assets that already exist. I mean, people are used to reading newsletters, but now you can archive them via these these Web3 sort of hinged tools such as Paragraph.
Right. I was meeting with the Web3 team at Amazon, and I don't think I'm really allowed to say anything, but there's going to be,
So say it.
there's going to certainly be a strong push toward attaching digital assets or NFTs to physical items that are being sold. It got me thinking about Amazon's Kindle business, because I think of that business model as they basically were selling what we might consider in today's terminology of Web3 soul-bound tokens, right? So when you bought an Amazon Kindle, you basically bought a digital asset that was only for you. You couldn't resell it. There was no intrinsic value outside of you owning it, you highlighting it, it becoming kind of a version of your expression of engagement with that book. And even though we don't ever use those words soul-bound tokens in alignment with things like Kindle, it certainly does set a model. Which brings me to this question. When you think about Web3 publishing, what are your thoughts around selling a digital asset to one of your readers that allows you to have a much better engagement with them that might be soul-bound, right? It's access to the book that they can't resell. There's no utility value necessarily. It's not going to go up in price necessarily, compared to providing the book and as an asset that can be resold, that's not soul-bound to one person, but can be freely exchanged in the market. What are your thoughts on those two paths?
Well, for example, my digital book is not token gated. Anyone can go on the Alexandria Labs website and read it for free. And I made that very sort of conscious decision. And I would never, I don't think, sign up for a project in which there's no transactability. What I love about these tokens is that they're living, breathing things that can trade hands.
Yeah.
And I think that people are going to invest in you as an artist, as a writer, as a poet, if they see you working, and if they think that the assets that they, are purchasing, perhaps potentially, but not necessarily, but at least have the option of selling them. So if you're limiting people, it doesn't even make sense to me. It goes against the entire, sort of ethos of the ecosystem. And of course, you started by mentioning Amazon. So I'm hoping that they're not thinking that, because it doesn't, for me, it makes no sense. It's like stunting growth.
No, they didn't make any inclination toward that model. What they did say was their excitement for bundling digital assets with physical products, and they definitely had some very thoughtful strategies moving forward.
Yeah.
Before we wrap, I wanted to ask, if you had a major publisher, let's say John, the CEO of Macmillan Publishing, right, the 5th largest publisher in the world, if his team came up to you, or he directly came up to you and said, Anna, we want to be more innovative. We want to look at Web3 publishing inside, whether inside our business or look at strategic partnerships. How would you advise somebody like that has a crazy amount of responsibility on his shoulders, and his team has an incredible distribution around the world? And so how would you advise an established publisher to whether dip their toe or dive in headfirst into ideas around Web3 publishing?
I think I would tell them to get started with kids. Not tiny, like 12-year-olds, I would say, because they get the technology, they get the digital assets. It's going to become second nature to them. And when your kids like something, as a parent, you pay attention, for good or bad, you pay attention. And then it starts making sense to you as well. I mean, I don't know how many adults read Harry Potter after seeing their kids devour it, right?
Right.
But I'm sure that fed the boom. But I would start with children's and make it really, really fun, and make it like a game, because it is fun. This whole world, if we look at it correctly, I think is really fun. It's playful. And so if you lean into that aspect of it, I don't see how it can be very risky. And I understand the responsibilities and, potentials for failure and all that one of these big CEOs might have. So I think that could be a responsible way and a genuine way of starting to dip their toes into Web3.
Well, we're excited to have you share this year. What are you having the most fun with right now as we kind of come to a close in our conversation? And I imagine you'll probably give more insight at NFT NYC, which is happening April 12th through the 14th. But here and now, on March 28th, I'm asking you, what's most fun for you right now in all the things that you're doing?
I have to say that there's a YouTube channel called The Coding Train that teaches people how to use P5.js. And the guy who teaches it is just such a joy and so unpretentious. I just really enjoy watching his videos. It's nice. It's a nice little sort of break during my day. I try to do one a day.
Well, I love that. I always feel great when the guests that jump on with me to share a conversation talk about other things that are inspiring them. Anna, you and your friends, your co-founders, your collaborators are an inspiration to us. Thank you for what you have done and will continue to do for publishing, for poets, for authors. And we certainly are grateful to have you come be a part of the program once again. And I guess the final thing I could ask is any specific way you'd want people to reach out to you if they wanted to connect with you one-on-one.
Twitter.
There it is, everybody. Twitter is the way. Well, until next time, I look forward to seeing you in a couple weeks in New York. And for everybody watching our conversation, thank you for your attention. I'll be back again